Hi, my name is Talia. I'm a staff member at Discovery, and I'm going to help you do your homework today.
So in this question, you're asked to simulate spinning two wheels labeled 1 through 16 5,000 times and store your results in a data frame. So the first thing that should kind of make bells go off in your head is the word simulate, because in this class we've learned a specific set of steps that works for most simulations, and that includes this one. This one's going to follow those steps. Another thing that should give you some clues to start out with is the import statements. Those are already given to you in the Python box. One of them is pandas. That doesn't tell us much, we always use pandas. The second one is random, and that'll give you a hint as to how you're actually going to simulate spinning those wheels and making sure that every number has an equal chance of being selected. So now that we know this information, let's start actually going through our steps and making this simulation. Our first step, as always, is to create an empty list for the data. So that's just the word data equals empty brackets right next to each other. We'll add stuff to that later. Second, you want to make your for loop, and in Python you do that by doing for I in range, and then in parentheses you do however many times it tells you to do it. It could be 2,500, 5,000, 10,000, a million, whatever the question tells you. In this case, we have 5,000, put that in parentheses. And then this is really important, remember the colon. That indicates the start of your for loop. And then everything else after this that you want to be in this for loop, you have to indent. Don't put anything indented unless you want it to happen 5,000 times. And there's some things that you don't want to do 5,000 times. So let's get started into what we actually want to put in our for loop. The question tells you have to name your variables wheel 1 and wheel 2. So let's set those. Wheel 1 equals, and this is where random comes in. There's a random function called random.randint that allows you to simulate in a range of numbers, and every number in the range has an equal chance of being selected. And so the reason we use random.randint is because we're actually drawing from integers. If we didn't want to do this, if we wanted to draw from strings or like just draw from a specific list of items that we have, which could also be integers, then we use random.choice. But here, since we're using a range of numbers, we do randint. I hope that was clear, because that can be confusing sometimes. Random.randint. And then our range over here is 1 through 16. This is inclusive on both sides, so it includes 1 and it includes 16. And our second variable, wheel 2, is exactly the same thing because there's two wheels that are 1 through 16. So wheel 2, also random.randint 1, 16. Okay. Now, here's the part that's a little trickier. We want to store our results of these random numbers into a dictionary. That allows us to kind of match our results to variables that they're going to eventually be columns in our data frame. So to do a dictionary, let's just call it D equals curly braces. And then in quotes, you want to do whatever you want to call your column. Usually it's the same thing as the variable name, just to be simple about it. So you do wheel 1 in quotes, and then colon, and then wheel 1 again. So this indicates where you're actually getting your information for the column wheel 1 from, and we're getting it obviously from the variable wheel 1 that we just found. So you do that, and then comma to make another entry for wheel 2. Make sure you remember the comma. Exactly the same thing, colon, wheel 2. And then end curly braces. And then you want to put the results that you put in here into your empty list for data. So you do data.append D, and this adds the information that you store in this dictionary to this list. And then we actually want to come out of our for loop because our next step is creating the data frame. And you only want to create the data frame one time at the end. You don't want to make your data frame 5,000 times because that would take up way too much memory and space and whatever. So finally, you come out of the for loop, back to the original indentation, df equals, and it has to be called df, the problem says so. And then To make a new data frame with an existing like data structure, in this case our list, you do pd.dataframe. The same syntax for creating an empty data frame, except for this time in the parentheses, you put data. That's our list that we made into the parentheses, so it's like, obviously it's not gonna be empty. And then that's it actually. Yeah, that's the whole simulation. And just to go over this one more time, the reason these are inside the for loop is because every time we spin our wheel for the 5,000 times during the simulation, we want to add it to the dictionary and then append it to the list. So it'll just like save it every single time, and then we have our 5,000 results. And then once we have our total 5,000 results, the loop will end, and then it'll put everything into the data frame, and your simulation's over.